Hey guys, it's Malcolm here once again, and today I wanted to share with you my first attempt at trying to make Spectral Shield Throw a thing. Now, in this attempt, I went with a Poison Assassin to scale off of the pure physical damage and then some chaos damage that we do. I also had the idea of going with an Inquisitor just for pure Fizz to Elite conversion, and I will be testing that out rather soon, but I first of all wanted to try the Assassin version, where I use, or the idea initially was to use Spectral Shield Throw as a clear, and then hopefully some Molten Strike action for a single target. So I wanted to treat the skill similar to how you would treat a Kinetic Blast, in that it is a really nice clear skill, and then you need the help of a single target, like a Barrage, to make a complete character. So I didn't want to treat the Spectral Shield Throw ability as a pure standalone ability, because I feel like that was probably going to lead to disappointing single target damage. That said, once I started leveling the character and playing it, the Spectral Shield Throw AoE wasn't too bad. It cleared fairly decently with the poison combination, and the single target was pretty much good enough to just keep going with by itself, and so I didn't even bother using any Molten Strike action. So I did manage to play this character and scale it off of pure physical using high armor shields and a lot of poison assassin stuff to do fairly well and do good damage, but ultimately it kind of felt like it would have just been a better option to go Wasp Nest and play a Spectral Throw plus Molten Strike combo, as that scales together a lot easier, because when going with a Spectral Shield Throw character, it's pretty hard to scale the actual damage on it, purely for the shield throw aspect, and then if you want to get something else like Molten Strike with claws in, you have to take separate nodes that don't really make any sense to the Spectral Shield Throw scaling. So then you have kind of a passive tree that's a bit all over the place and a bit inefficient in both regards. The goal was to still be a bit inefficient, because Molten Strike with the Assassin Poison scaling should be really strong right now. That was the idea, and then hopefully we work mostly on trying to scale the Spectral Shield Throw so that I have some decent clear and then some still really good single target, even if it's not completely optimal, because the interaction of Molten Strike and Poison is fairly overpowered at the moment. Now, in the end, it cleared really well. I was actually rather happy with how the character cleared. The biggest problem was I was using a Gloomfang plus the Fork Gem, because after lots of testing, it turned out that probably one or two chains and then the Fork Gem seemed to be the absolute best for clearing everything and hitting lots of targets many times. And the problem with that was that Gloomfang felt terrible when hitting so many targets and so many chains that it would really put a dent in your sustain. So you would actually take lots of damage from the 20 damage taken per chain with attacks mod on the amulet, and it felt pretty bad once I was getting into higher tier yellows and lower tier reds for actual sustain. Whereas if I just respec to a pure Molten Strike and Spectral Throw Wasp Nest character, I have insane sustain thanks to the life gain on hit on the claw, and I'm just getting everything back every time I'm hitting him, and it just feels a lot better. So ultimately the character did get respec'd into Spectral Throw and Molten Strike, and I will have a full wrap-up video of that Wasp Nest character in the future, because it did turn out to be rather good. But this was just an attempt at my Spectral Shield Throw for the first time, and just wanted to share with you guys how it went, and go over the character a bit in Path of Building for you, in case you want to have some ideas and learn from my attempt, mistakes, whatever. And yeah, Poison Spectral Shield Throw, it looks like it could be a thing, even with some slight refinements. It wasn't the best on clear speed ever, but it did maintain a good 250 to 300 mil an hour throughout the level 80 leveling process, and it was really fun to map with. So the character in game has been respec'd to Spectral Throw and not Spectral Shield Throw and Molten Strike, so it doesn't really apply anymore. I can't particularly go over it there, but I do still have a previous Path of Building saved for this character, and overall you can see it had about 400,000 single target shield throw damage. Now that is with all the Wither stacks, and that is against Shaper and Guardians at around level 80-ish. So it was with some refinement. I think you hit something like 800,000 Shaper damage in the absolute end game, which feels okay, but it feels a little inconsistent because of the chance to hit you have. the crit chance you have, because crit chance scaling is really hard on a skill like this. So then half your attacks just do not apply that level of poison that you're looking for, and it does feel a little inconsistent when coming up across a bunch of the bosses. So for tier 16s and guardians and all that, I just did not think it was going to be very successful at all, and I moved on to the Molten Strike Spectral Throw version because I knew that I could salvage it that way. And I'll have a few clips of that in the next video probably. And spoiler alert, it was pretty good. The poison ramp on Molten Strike was really nice. But the way Spectral Shield Throw works as an actual skill gem is it's got a bunch of flat physical to begin with from just leveling the gem. So something like 300 physical damage, and then it gets scaled off of your shield based off of armor, evasion, and energy shield. The armor and evasion is going to give you some more flat damage, and for this type of build and for most shield throw type of builds, just getting a lot of flat armor seems to be the way to go to scale a lot of the damage. So anything like 2000 plus armor on a shield is more or less what you're looking for, and the best possible shield you can get is around 2800 armor, but there are a few little decent shields you can use in between, like a Magna Eclipsis. Not sure if I have one here. Not currently, because it has something like 1800 armor and then 100 ES, which gives you another 1 crit point. Considering I'm an assassin, another 1 crit point wasn't going to be a huge deal, since I am scaling off of power charges and getting a 7th point of crit there, and getting plenty of power charges and crit throughout the tree. So that wasn't going to be a big deal, and essentially just go for a flat armor to get as much flat physical and initial hit as you can to start your damage train off. Now, supposedly, bleed versions of this type of character are pretty good and can definitely work. I wanted to make a poison version because I hadn't heard about that yet, and I thought it would be worth a test. And the way you scale, or try to scale poison right now, is flat physical, so you're hitting really hard with your initial investment, and then getting a bunch of poison damage over time, chaos damage to scale that damage, and then having poison chance and damage over time stuff. And the biggest problem is that you don't really abuse Noxious Strike at all. The Noxious Strike on the Assassin is pretty busted at the moment with the right things. A Blade Flurry, a Molten Strike, both of those can stack insane poison amounts to then get lots of poison duration and actually abuse this little Ascendancy node. Likewise with Quill Rain Barrage, for example, as well. Whereas with your shield throw, you're only throwing out a few shields a second, and you're not really stacking up that many poisons that fast, so you can't really abuse the busted nature of Assassin. It's just decent for poison. And the other biggest problem is just getting the kind of scaling for shield throw on the tree isn't very easy. You have to take generic physical damage. There's no crit multi for shield sort of stuff. You have to take specifically damage for shield sort of stuff. Can't take melee damage. Can't really take projectile damage either, because that doesn't scale poison at all, and point blank doesn't work there either. In the end, there was enough stuff for shield throw on the passive tree to feel decent, but it's hard to truly scale into endgame sense with crit multi and all of that. And jewels themselves aren't very impressive either. You have to get global physical, and then probably just attack speed with shields and attack speed in general, so you can actually scale something from the character. And I chose to try and do attack speed because its base attack speed is rather crappy, and for the character to feel any sort of good, you do want quite a lot of attack speed all over the place. In the end, went with a Prismatic Eclipse for my main hand for the most part. It's another 36% attack speed, and compared to something like a Death's Hand where you get Unholy Might, it was just a little bit better, so then you'd rather use it just for the attack speeds. There's plenty of other little choices. Did use a UR's Mirage for a while. Wasp Nest doesn't actually give us anything, neither does Mortal Morsu, because those poison mods are all local to the weapon. So you just have to take something that actually benefits your shield throw, and in the end I went with Prismatic Eclipse. And the other thing I should mention is Spectral Shield Throw Lab Enchant, 5 additional shard projectiles. Felt pretty crucial to feeling good with clear on this sort of skill. You start out with 8 secondary projectiles, and this 5 puts it up to 13, and it starts to feel pretty good for clear once you get this helmet chart paired with a chain on our neck, currently from Gloomfang, or we did start out with a UR's Mirage, just for the 1 additional chain there. Paired with the fork and the chain, it felt really nice for clear, and then it just kind of felt average for single target at that point. But as you can see, lose 21 life for each enemy hit by your attacks on Gloomfang. That actually started to become kind of a problem late game, because I wouldn't really lose too much life, but I certainly wouldn't be gaining any because of the amount of chaining happening from this piece of shit. The other things I could mention, Corralito Signature. If you're playing a crit poison build, you pretty much have to run this thing. It does kind of suck being fully reliant on a flask for quite a lot of your damage, so if I untick that, a lot of our damage goes away. But it's definitely, I think, something you should do, because it gives you a lot of good things for poison, and it does mean you can skip Perfect Agony on the tree. And otherwise, Dendrobate, as usual, still put that into the build, primarily because I wanted to min-max my damage as much as I could, and I certainly had to do that with something like a Dendrobate. And I'll give you guys this path of building link without anything other to the character associated in the build list. Not going to include this one just yet. In the end, I think I had about 5,500 life at about level 85, 86. So it's also kind of hard to scale life much higher, and then your sustain just won't be that good. Whereas if your life gain on hit, Wasp Nest with Molten Strike or Spectral Throw, you get quite a lot of sustain. So that's also another big deal. The character's sustain for single target, for end game sort of stuff, wasn't really there. That's the first attempt for Spectral Shield Throw. I think it cleared really nicely, it played pretty nicely, but ultimately I don't think I could recommend it, at least not the way I tried it. I'm sure someone else could make a pretty decent poison one if they fucked around with it enough, but currently it seems that bleed is the way to go, and pretty soon I'm going to be trying the Inquisitor version that I planned out, and we'll see if that actually has anything to do with anything, or if it's just going to be another meh shield throw type of build. But now though guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and the little wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.